This is CBS 11 News at 10. Not just what happens, what matters.
Your answer is you're not going to apologize. That's fine. That's fine. I would apologize if I insulted somebody like that. That's all. My only question to you was...
I laid out the facts, Representative Guerra. I laid out the facts.
You don't have to apologize to people. You get to insult them. You don't have to apologize to them.
Tonight, fireworks after the legislature releases its report on Troopergate, finding that Governor Palin did abuse her power. Good evening, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Reagan Scott. After months of waiting, Steve Branchflower's investigation is out on whether Governor Palin abused her power in firing Public Safety Commissioner Walt Monaghan. As CBS 11's Grace Jang reports, the findings were not what either side expected.
So did Governor Palin abuse her power in firing Walt Monaghan?
That's what the finding number one says. That's the conclusion that Mr. Branchflower came to.
Steve Branchflower's report is 1,300 pages long, whittled down to about 300 for the public.
I feel relieved by it. I certainly believe that Wooten was a major factor, if not the factor, in my termination, and that's what this finding came out to be.
12 yeas, no nays.
As lawmakers debated for 7 hours on whether to release the report, protesters criticized the investigation itself.
What Mr. French and Les Guerra are holding is a real live kangaroo court.
Branchflower's report shows 4 findings, most notably that Governor Palin violated the Alaska Executive Branch Ethics Act.
He concluded that she did abuse her power by omission. She could have reined in her husband a little more.
Walt Monaghan, the man who's been at the center of it all, says he's relieved but conflicted.
I didn't want the governor to be viewed in a bad light. I didn't want her to have to answer or be embarrassed by all this.
So what's next?
There was no suggestion for further action from this committee.
For me, I'm simply happy that the work is done. It was done in a professional way. And so I think we can close this chapter and go to the next one.
The next chapter remains to be seen. Grace Jang, CBS 11 News.
And as the massive report was released, many were pleased that the investigation was finally complete. Of course, there were those who let their tempers flare in a big way. CBS 11's Todd Walker joins us with more reaction to today's report. And Todd, there are just no words for what we saw today. Talk about things getting downright nasty.
Well, Reagan, that's right, it did. Alaska lawmakers have been under the international microscope for months now as this investigation has been conducted. And now that it's over, lawmakers and those at the center of the inquiry made their feelings public. As the report was voted unanimously to be released, those for and against let their feelings be known.
I thought the report was basically very well done. But I didn't agree with all the conclusions.
And that's what I think is the greatest thing about this sort of report, is where you have that viewpoint from all these different people coming about the same event, and when they agree, you know you've gotten some good information.
McCain-Palin spokeswoman Meg Stapleton, a member of the so-called Truth Squad and a constant critic of the investigation, said the governor feels vindicated even though the report finds her in violation of an ethics statute.
She did nothing wrong within the context of the investigation.
She says the original intent was to see if the firing of Walt Monaghan was within the governor's power, which it was found to be.
That finding to us is just more of a justification for, well, we've got $100,000 here. Let's look for something out there. Let's overexpand and overreach beyond what we were originally going to do and what the original question was.
But as our interview with Stapleton wrapped up, a critic of the Truth Squad's claims demanded she apologize to the man at the center of the investigation.
I don't care what you said about me. I don't care what you said about Bill Wielechowski. I don't care what you said about the half dozen other people that you guys came up here to attack, but I guess you owe Walt Monaghan an apology, don't you?
The tense conversation carried on for over 10 minutes along 4th Avenue.
You never attacked Walt Monaghan?
No.
Really?
No.
And Ed O'Callahan never attacked Walt Monaghan?
No.
Really?
No. We laid out the facts there.
You never attacked Steve Branchflower, did you?
Nope.
And you never attacked Hollis French, did you?
No.
Really?
Really.
I'm sorry you feel like that.
We did not bring anyone up here to attack anyone, and I do not stand there to attack anyone. I stand there, and Ed O'Callahan stands next to me to make sure that Alaskans and that Americans know that Walt Monaghan was reassigned because he and the governor had complete different goals when it came to budgetary and policy issues. And that is the only reason this governor reassigned Walt Monaghan.
This isn't about the governor. This isn't about the governor.
I'm sorry, this isn't about the governor?
This isn't about...
Great.
I asked you personally, are you going to apologize for the things you've said up here for the last 3 weeks about Walt Monaghan, about Steve Branchflower, and Hollis French? You don't have to apologize. That's up to you.
I will say that I am speaking on behalf of the governor and I am making sure that the facts get out there. No one is apologizing to the governor for making up a conspiracy theory that this had anything to do with anything else other than budgetary and policy matters.
You called a former Marine a rogue. That's not an insult? You don't think that's an insult? You owe him an apology.
Walt Monaghan did not agree and went behind the governor's back. By definition, that's insubordinate. Do I think that Walt Monaghan served the public? Yes. Walt Monaghan was a great Marine. Walt Monaghan served the public for decades. Absolutely. But he went behind the governor's back, and he differentiated with her on budget and policy issues.
Let's be clear, because you're going to get yourself in trouble by not telling the truth about somebody in public. When you tried to create your little fiction that he went behind the governor's back, what you failed to do was release the travel authorization that showed that he had the governor's authorization.
That travel authorization said, meet with Senator Lisa Murkowski. Guess what? After that, found out he wanted to lobby the Congress for earmarks, Representative Guerra. That he's explicitly, as outlined in numerous emails, he did not have permission for, and
I'm not going to argue with you. If I personally attack people the way you did, I would apologize to them. I think you should probably take a look at the videos. I think you should take a look at the 3-time-a-week press conferences you held every day. I think you should take a look at the pictures. I think you should take a look at the pictures that you put on TV, right?
And quotes in papers,
the little pictures where you put a circle around Walt Monaghan's head. The little pictures where you put a circle around Steve Branchflower's head, the little fake thing you did to try and tell people in the lower 48 that Republican prosecutor Steve Branchflower was somehow a Democrat, the little sort of fake picture you tried to create for people in the lower 48.
We said Steve Branchflower had connections to Hollis French, to Walt Monaghan, and that Linda Branchflower had connections to Walt Monaghan. That is all factual.
Facts that continue to be debated even after the investigation has come to a close. And tonight, the governor's attorney, Thomas Van Flein, released a statement saying, quote, he quote, condemns the Branchflower report as misleading and wrong on the law. So, Reagan, a lot of fierce reaction tonight. Live in the newsroom tonight, I'm Todd Walker, CBS 11 News.
Fierce reaction, to say the least. Thanks so much, Todd. Good work. Well, the governor's office also issued an official response. Communications Director Bill McAllister said, quote, the so-called Troopergate incident began with Governor Palin's removal of Walt Monaghan as Commissioner of Public Safety. Today, investigator Steve Branchflower vindicated the governor by finding that she acted within her constitutional authority to remove at-will employees. However, along with several members of the Legislative Council, we question how Mr. Branchflower reached the conclusion that Governor Palin abused her power with respect to Trooper Mike Wooten. That finding required speculation and assumptions on Mr. Branchflower's part and could not be supported solely on the basis of the evidence that he collected. We agree with the comments made that Alaskans should consider the report in total rather than relying solely on the findings.